Hello everyone, welcome to HM Studio. In this video, I'll be showing you how to recreate this scene with megascan assets, and we'll talk about one of the new features in Vray 5.2, specifically Vray decal. It's a great new feature which hasn't been developed to the perfection yet, but I'm sure you will love it as it is. So without any further ado, let's get into it. In order to use the megascans, you need to install the bridge. And this is where you can download all different kind of stuff. We have 3D assets, we have materials, and basically everything that you need to create this scene. So in order to use the bridge, you need to have an Epic Games account. For that, you need to go to epicgames.com, select sign in, then sign up, and create your account from here, which is pretty straightforward and there is no need for explanation here. After that, you need to download the bridge, and for that you should go to this address, which I'm going to share with you in the description below. After downloading, you just need to install it, which is pretty easy. It's just a couple of clicks and you're done. Then you can open up bridge and sign into your account from right here, right top corner, this little icon. And for the last step, you need to go to the edit menu and select manage plugins. After that, you need to install the 3ds Max plugin, and if you're using any of these other applications, you can install their plugin as well. Alright, let's go to 3ds Max and start. Let me just get rid of everything that I have in the scene so we could start from scratch. I'm going to delete all the objects and materials except the lighting and the camera. I'll probably keep the sidewalk and the street also. Okay, let me assign a raw Vray material to these two planes so we could start. And actually we need to get rid of all the modifiers that I have also. And yep, here is our scene, it's ready. Alright, as you can see, we have this camera in the scene, which is a basic physical camera, and the only thing that I've changed is the exposure value, and I've changed it to 13. By default, this is 6. As for the lighting, we have Vray Sun and Sky with their default settings, so yeah, pretty basic. Okay, we're done here. Just before we start, make sure that you're using the right render engine. In this case, I'm going to use Vray, but Bridge has the ability to create Corona materials as well. So just make sure that you're using the right render engine and we're all set. Okay, let's open up the bridge and start exporting some materials. The first thing that we need is the asphalt material, and the easiest way to find it is to search for it up here. After that, you can just select whichever you like the most. Let's say this one, and after selecting the material, you need to choose the resolution of the textures. In this case, I'm going to use the 4K textures. And if you select export settings, from here you can choose your target software, which is 3ds Max here, and you can choose what format do you want the textures to be. I'm going with the JPEG. And also, when you're downloading a surface, what maps do you need to be in the package? So for this one, I'm going to go with these. Alright, then we can simply just download the material, either from here or here. Alright, it's been downloaded and it's ready to export. But before exporting any of the materials, you need to make sure that you already have the right geometry selected inside the 3ds Max. In this case, we need to have the road selected. So let's just make sure of that and we can simply export the material. Exported successfully. So let's go back to 3ds Max, and yeah, you can see it right here. If you also go to Modify tab, you can see that we have the displacement map also being applied to the geometry, and the only thing that's been missing is the UVW map. Okay, so let's apply one to the geometry, and since all the textures are square, we need equal values for both width and length. So let's take care of that also. I'm gonna copy this one and put it up there. Alright, we're all good. Now we can just render it to see how it looks. And for that, we can open up the Vray frame buffer and start the IPR render from here. It looks pretty nice as it is, although it still needs a lot of details, and for that we can go back to the bridge. So depending on your project, you can go through all of these categories and find out what could work the best for your project and simply just download it and use it as I've shown you. I've already downloaded all the necessary assets for this project, and keep in mind, whenever you download anything from the bridge, it will be saved on your hard drive forever, and you can always find it all the way down here into the local category. And here you can see all the assets that I've downloaded for this project. For instance, here's the asphalt, and to use it, I'll make sure that the road is already selected, and I'll just simply export this material to my scene. There we have it. The same thing goes for the sidewalk. Firstly, I'm gonna select it, then I'll go back to the bridge, we'll select the material and export it just in the same way that I did for the road. Here it is. Again, for this one we need a UVW map, and let's apply one from the list here. I'm gonna make it 400 by 400. It looks a little bit big, so let's go with 200. Yeah, that's way better. We just need to move it a little bit to the side. Okay, great, it's done. Now let's render again to see what we have. Alright, it looks really cool without any adjustments. Maybe we can try some 3D assets now, and probably we can start with the curbs. And I gotta tell you, the same workflow goes for 3D assets, we just don't need to select anything in the scene. It doesn't matter if anything is selected or not. So just click on the export button and the bridge will take care of the rest. Okay, it's been exported and there it is. Okay, we have two of them. Let me just move this one next to the other, right there. Okay, cool. As you can see, the poly count on these two geometries is insane. Just for these two blocks, we have almost 2 million polygons, which is not acceptable at all. I mean, if you're not rendering a super close-up shot from them. In order to optimize these geometries, we need to go to the modifier list, select Pro Optimizer. Now let's enable Keep Textures, Keep UV Boundaries, and then click on the Calculate button. Alright, it's been calculated. Here you can see that we have 540,000 polygons on this object alone, and we can reduce the poly count simply by reducing this number over here. You know, we want them to be low poly-ish, but we don't want to get rid of all the details either, right? So I'm gonna start with 50%, and that leaves us with 273,000 polygons. That's a lot. And we can reduce it until we have a balance between the poly count and the quality of the geometry. So I'm gonna go with 20%, and we've already got rid of 400,000 polygons. Actually, let's go with 10. Okay, I think it works pretty fine for me, and I'm gonna leave it at that. That's 45,000 polygons, which compared to what we had before is nothing. Now we can do the same thing with the other one as well. Basically the same procedure. We're down to 200,000 polygons, which is great. I could still optimize them a bit more, but for the sake of this tutorial, that was even more than enough. Now let's convert these two to editable mesh and then put them into their place. Alright, these guys are done. Let's export these bollards as well, and we're gonna do the same thing, the same procedure. Okay guys, here comes the most interesting part of this tutorial. The next step is to take care of the crosswalk lines, and for that we would need to use the Vray decal. This is a new feature in Vray 5.2 which allows you to project any material onto any 3D object that you have in your scene. As you can see, this is just simply a box that you can create anywhere into your scene. Alright, then you need to simply assign a material to it, and it will project that material onto any 3D model that is within this box in every direction. Okay, for instance, let's apply a simple Vray material to it and see how it works. Okay, let me just open up the frame buffer and start the render. Okay, you see, it projected that material on the asphalt surface. It doesn't matter how many objects are within this box, it will project the material on each and every one of them. You can simply scale it, move it around and do whatever you want. But you gotta know that we cannot apply a UVW map to this object. So it's better if we just don't scale it and just simply modify its size from the modify panel. Here we have the normal angle option, which is very important. What does this do? It specifies the angle to which the decal is applied onto the surface below. That means if the angle between the decal object and the surface is more than this number, the Vray decal won't project that material onto that part. I know it's a bit confusing, but here is how it works. Let's decrease this number down to 45. And as you can see, we don't have the material on the side of the curves anymore, because the angle is more than 45 degrees. Let's slightly increase this number to see when the material will appear on this side. It has to be somewhere around 80 degrees, I would say. I think we're gonna have to have a closer look. Okay, now that we are in the perspective view, the Vray camera exposure control aren't working anymore, so we gotta change the EV value through the environment settings. For that, you can press 8 on your keyboard and increase the EV value until it looks fine. or you can basically put the same number that you have in your camera settings. Alright, I think we found our number, and it's 73 to be specific. Now that you know how it works, we can actually export some materials, right? So let's start with the crosswalk lines. For that, I'm gonna have to create a new Vray decal. I'm gonna get rid of this one since I've already messed it up. And we're gonna start with 300 by 300 and see how it goes. Alright, with having this selected, we can go back to the bridge and simply export the material. Okay, exported successfully. Let's go back to Max. And as you can see, it's transparent now. And that's because we have the Vray displacement modifier on top of it and it doesn't support it. So we're gonna have to get rid of it. And I hope it could work, but unfortunately it's not working at the moment. Probably it will in the next updates, but for now this is what we have. Alright, let's place it correctly to where we want it to be. Alright, it looks good. A bit small though, we need to increase the size, but it looks really good. So let's go to the modify panel and increase its size to, I don't know, maybe 400. Yeah, it definitely looks better, but I mean, maybe we can go even bigger. Probably 600 would work. Yeah, pretty much. Okay, it looks great. Let's just place it correctly. And here it is. It looks pretty cool, right? Now we gotta do is to match the color of these lines. One of them is yellow, the others are white, so let's make the yellow one white. For that, open up your material editor, pick the material from the road, and we need a color correction node here for the diffuse map, and we can simply decrease the saturation. And boom, here it is, done. Okay, now we have add some extra details like some dirt, some patches and other stuff. And for that we can go back to the bridge and see what we have, right? Alright, as you can see, I have this side road dust that can go to the side of the street. And for that we need to create another Vray decal. Alright, let's create it right here. And if you're wondering about the size of these materials or textures, you can always go back to the bridge and you can find the size right here. And for this one, we have 2 meters by 50 centimeters, so let's change the size accordingly. Okay, now we can export the material. Again, we need to get rid of the displacement and let's see how it looks. Okay, I made a mistake here. Let me just swap these numbers. And yeah, it's fine. We just need to rotate it 90 degrees. And probably we need to make this one bigger also. It's too small. Let's double the size. Okay, let's just put it right to where it belongs. And we just need to make a few copies. And that's it. Alright, for the next one I think we can use these cracks, and the same procedure goes for this and all the other materials as well. We're gonna create another Vray decal and simply export it. Okay, it looks really nice, and I mean, it's just a little bit small. Let's make it a little bit bigger. A little bit more, and yeah, that's perfect. We just need to find the right place for it. Yeah, it looks fine here, I guess. Okay, looks pretty cool. We're done with this one as well. Now that we have two different materials in the same spot, we have this order option right here to prioritize the materials. Which one should be at the bottom, which one should be on the top. It's pretty much like the layering system in Photoshop, or even the composite map right here in the Max. So if I change the order to 1, it will go over the crosswalk lines. And if I do the opposite, the same thing will happen to the cracks. So let's change it back to 0 and change the crosswalk lines order to 1. It might be a bit confusing because it seems like nothing happened, right? And that's because of the opacity map that we have on this material, I mean the crosswalk lines. So basically, in this part, we don't have anything to be shown in the first place, right? It's already empty. And that's it. Alright guys, that was pretty much everything that you needed to know about the bridge, Megascan assets, and also Vray decal. I hope you liked this video and find it useful, and if you do, please just give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you next time.